I'm going to be quickly going over my map's quick changes before my final playtest session tomorrow. Now, this does not represent the final upload of my map, as I will do a future video to quickly go over the final adjustments that I had made. Now, these final adjustments will all be purely decorative, as from my previous playtest, I've come to the realization that there is not much else needed to do for my map anymore besides decoration. Of course, there were some micro balance adjustments that I had to do, and some of them, most of them, have to do with bugs. So the first main one for optimization was our skybox. Initially, I had my skybox set as a sort of mix between a full cube and trimmed down. This was because I had a lava damage box outside the map. And originally this worked, but it still felt unneeded. So I went ahead and I got rid of the lava. When I got rid of the lava, it went ahead and I realized that I just wanted to redo the skybox. So when I went ahead and I did my original box, once I had tried building my map, I had realized that my thing was freezing, especially after I increased the height of the skybox. That was until I had received information from a source and from some people that I know about skybox optimization. Now, this was a wiki page that demonstrated how to optimize your map for building and for performance. Not that performance would necessarily be affected, it's mostly to do with building. So I went ahead and I followed it, and of course realized that the best way to go about things is to make your skybox as closely trimmed as it can possibly be to the map. So I went ahead and I did such a thing. I scaled the skybox so that it covers the entire map. And once I had done that, I went ahead and, of course, rescaled some of the invisible blockers so that they can work with this new height and adjustments. And once that was all sorted out, I could then move on to the lava thing that I had initially done. Now, as you can see from here, the lava still does exist, however, it's considerably cut down. I've now introduced these walls over here and here. But you may have also noticed there's now also a wall here. Now, the reason why is because I wanted to incorporate an additional thing for the center area of my map, in that if you are at this caution area, instead of lava would be a buzzsaw death. And also from these sides, you can see that there's also some nice decoration for the theme of the map being a toy store. I wanted the idea to be that these areas would be these mini little stations where people would normally be tinkering with their toys and such, or keeping them in for storage. Of course, I can decorate this further and such if I wanted to, but that's for the final build. Miniature things like how I added in a red light here to connect downwards and some lighting in here was because before, when I didn't have any lighting in these rooms ended up being pitch black and caused errors. So I went ahead and fixed that by, of course, adding in lighting. Other miniature things is that now instead of the default square cubes with box textures, I have gone ahead and actually added in the box props that the prop library has. And also because of this, I was allowed to have a varied type of boxes, including this cardboard box section here, which I've strewn about occasionally around the map. And then, of course, other miniature things like even these smaller miniature boxes have been also placed. I then went ahead and added in extra miniature things like these exit signs and arrows that guide the player. Not that these are necessarily important, as my map is pretty straightforward. It's just that these add to help in any way that it possibly can. Other little micro things was that the in the playtest we had some people having issues that this was a red heavy bot. Now I went ahead and changed it to be more distinctly not human like, so players should hopefully not get as confused easily. And then, of course, if I can go over here, we can see that there is these red invisible cubes. Now, the reason why I have this is because originally this was just lava, so I still want to find a way to damage players. I added in this main one to cover the entire initial area that will go ahead and do gradual, like 20% or something damage over time. And of course, you can technically escape it just as long as you jump back up here. Or as a bonus now, you can now technically get up onto here from those platforms. And that could be used as an additional short path that players may not understand at first. Of course, here we also have the initial pit, which if a player falls under, they'll be under this type of damage box, which is more of a sawmill. So whenever you go into here, rather than just displaying the damage indicator that these ones have, instead, this one will indicate as a saw blade based death. In the players' bases, we currently do not have much decoration to show. However, in the final build, I hope to have actual decoration in place. As to what it can be, I'm unsure as of yet. I had initially experimented with adding boxes, but they wouldn't show up, so I got rid of them. So, and I'll of course showcase the changed version of them when I can. In the outer section, we changed the initial texture and added in some trees. Now, I hope that in the final version, I can start adding some more green grass, but via like decals and such, to hopefully liven this up a bit more. And another issue that comes from this skybox is that because the lava's gone now and such, you'll still just be able to see the void. And if you like look ahead in this direction or such, if I just cut through, you would normally be able to see these walls and see what's through them. Now, of course, I'm going to change that because otherwise people will just be able to just see through walls. And how I'm going to do it is I'm going to try and see which props from the prop library will help me block off these sections from players, including this back area that is unneeded. I'm going to hopefully use the rock surface based ones and see how that feels for the map. If it doesn't work well, I can of course make my adjustments to this. Now, to quickly speedrun some extra little things, is that the lightings had initially been changed as well because they were too bright for players on the playtest monitors. I discovered this also when I played on the Cadman PCs myself. The reason why this wasn't apparent to me at first was because my main monitor at home doesn't display these lights as bright as they are. And then one bonus little thing is with these doors. There's been many issues, so I'll go over them very quickly as I can. First issue is that the doors had this bug where when the players enter it, If they leave and re-enter the collision while the door's closing, the door would stay locked. I fixed this by changing in the properties section by looking at the delay before reset button and changing the value to -1. Because I changed it to -1, it should basically always open and close no matter what, even if you try leaving and re-enter the collision during an animation. Now, there was one other initial problem in that the trigger boxes had this problem where if a player from an opposing team opened the door, it would go ahead and open, but it would never close. I was unsure what the problem was at the time, so I went ahead and looked through the inputs, outputs, and such, until I discovered that the reason why was because in the trigger properties, there's a thing called filter name. And I had originally added in a filter name because of the previous spawn doors. But I have since gotten rid of them from these doors, so now the players can, of course, open and close these things properly without any bugs. Now, other than that, there are, of course, other micro adjustments with the props and such. But before I do finish this video, there is one other main problem, and it's to do with the hammer's bug fixer. Now, what I mean by this is that if I go over to a place like here in the map, you could see that it's not exactly connected in terms of its height and such. So if I went on to, for example, the vertex manipulator and adjusted to try and get it right, it would look fine. Not that it does right now, but it would normally look fine. But the problem is that if I hit Alt P, it will pop up with a checkmark for problems display. And from this display, it would tell you for any errors. Now, if I did have this vertex changed, normally it would show up as a invalid surface. So you think to hit the fix button, but every time you fix it, it moves the transform of the vertexes to something akin to this, or in worse cases, severely moves it in other areas. Like, for example, before I had the way I have it now, every time I hit fix, it would move it somewhere like way upwards, when that just does not work in creating a seamless look for my map anymore. So, of course, I since changed this, and after several attempts for micro adjustments, I've gotten it to be as seamless as I can be, but it's not exactly perfect, of course. And I've tried searching about help on regards to this. I just don't have much of an answer to it. So I think for now I will just leave it at that and keep it noted, because it has become much more of a headache to deal with than I initially thought. But other than that, that is all for this video showcase. I do apologize for its length. I just really felt like I needed to get this video sorted out to explain as much as I can before I start working on my final aspects of decoration. But again, I'll do a video on those in the future. So this will be all.